Well, no, I'll introduce it and kind of open it into it. So, y'all ready?
We're good,
Okay.
bub.
All right. Hey guys, it's Cody Hall with Buckmasters, and today I'm your new host to a new series that we're doing here. It's known as Big Buck Blueprint. So basically, it's going to be comprised of a bunch of hunts that are all over the states, all over the United States. It's just going to be real hunters in real time, blue collar men killing anywhere from 120-inch 8 point in South Alabama all the way to a 200-inch in northern Illinois, all over the states, and hearing their stories and whatever it takes for them to kill that deer and get it on the ground. So excited to bring this on. Here with me, I've got my wife, and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, and I'll add, and women. You said blue collar men and women. Us
true,
women can
true.
kill deer too. That is definitely going to be a tactic going into this podcast as we get some awesome women on here. But yes, I'm Melissa Hall. I am Cody's wife. I was the default option for co-host of Big Buck Blueprint because he could not find anyone else to do it. But I'm also a Buckmasters on the road team member. Love this brand and I'm excited to be a part of this. More excited because our first guest is awesome. We've got Brett on the line today. Hey, Brett.
Hi, how y'all guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
And I'll make it clear too. He clarified that he goes by the name of Termite since he was little. So if I call him Termite is him. So just let that be laid out there.
Well, we need some context though. Why Termite?
So when I was a kid, I grew up in a bow shop, and I kept asking the bow tech in there a bunch of questions, and I annoyed the far out of him, and he just looked at me and he said, "You know what? You're about like a little termite." So after that, it just, 20 years later, here we are, and I'm still getting called termite.
Yeah. That is so cute.
That's awesome, man. So can you give us just a little breakdown of who you are and where you're from and kind of just a little history of you and what you do for a living?
So I'm Brett. Everybody calls me Termite. I'm from the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And what I go through is I am running an excavation business with my dad. And then I also am the host of Yeet Missile TV on YouTube. And then I also shoot 3D ASA and IBO archery competitions. And I've been bow hunting ever since I was a kid and still with it.
That's awesome, man.
So you've been in the same area since where you grew up is where you are now?
Yep, I still live on the family farm. My old house is right up the hill from me.
Oh, I love awesome, stories like that. Yeah. That's so cool.
You can tell the accent. We've got a southern accent too, but the bluegrass state has a totally different accent in my opinion. But
so
really awesome.
At what age did you get into hunting out there in Kentucky?
My dad started me out really early. I actually started when I was 5.
Oh
really?
My God.
I killed my first deer when I was 6, and I really thought that was like I was young, but I've never heard of somebody at 5. That's
now I never killed one at 5, but he would take me out there.
Okay.
He'd have a blanket, and he would wrap me up in a blanket in the blind, and of course half the time I'd be asleep, and he'd get mad at me because I snored too much.
Oh my gosh. That's so cute. Well, if that's the case, if we get to talk about when kids get started, at what age, Addie would have been like 6 months old.
Yeah.
Because I carried her around in a blanket like your dad did with you. Yeah. That's so neat. So how old were you when you finally killed one then?
I was 8 years old. He took me out during gun season when I was 8, and I still got the deer actually mounted in the house, a little basket rack 8-pointer, and he come up and had a 243 Rossi, and I put it right in his chest and shot him and dropped him, and then a doe come up after that and started sniffing him, and I looked at him and said, "Hey, can I shoot that one too?" He said, "No, we already killed one. You just sit there and wait."
How cute. And you remember it like it was yesterday, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like it was yesterday.
That's what it's all about, and that's what we want these podcasts to be. Like I told you on the phone, it's wanting to just bring it back to real life, just real hunters, real people, and
doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and for the right reasons, and not just doing it just for the fun of it, but a lot of people do it for a living. It is for just meat. Yeah. They don't really care about the horns, but sometimes we see a lot of folks that they kill some really good deer, whether that's happenstance or luck or what, but are they doing something right? And that's why we're here to find out, to see what's going on. So, but no, this is a really cool story. And again, we know a little bit about this history of this deer and the story that that Termite has explained to us, but we're going to kind of act like we don't know anything about it. We're going to try to we're going to try
like we didn't creep on his whole YouTube channel and watch it already.
And by the way too, we're going to put all of his links in the description of everything, so you guys can go check him out on socials and his YouTube, so you guys can see the full hunt that he put together. It's pretty awesome, really good hunt.
Yeah, super fun to watch.
So this deer that we're talking about today is known as splits. That's correct?
Yep, splits.
Okay, so can you just kind of give a breakdown history line of this deer, just who he is and how he came into your life and how this hunt?
It was nuts. So in 2021, I never really paid much attention to him. I already tagged out, and it was around December. And the only set of photos that I ever had of him was his front beams and his threes, and that was it. And he was just a basket rack 8-pointer at the time. So got my brother on a deer, and then we ended up going back through the season, and we went through the next year, 2022. And I decided I was going to put a food plot in and everything else. And then I got a set of photos of him in 2022. And I was that time didn't know what deer it was.
Wow.
And still didn't until I got him. And he ended up just still being the same 8-pointer, 4 years old. And he was had a split off his G2, and that's how he got his name. He had one set of a crab coming off his G2, and he run with a 10-pointer, and he got his name that way. And then just everything started from there. I mean, I watched him religiously. He lived in that food plot like 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the evening. He'd come back every 2 hours to eat in there. And then
wow.
That's cool.
It just ended up into a roller coaster, and he turned into something that I never thought he would have ended up being.
How much property do you hunt? Because I think it's easy to watch these videos and hear you talk about it and think, okay, he's on a couple of acres and he's targeting the same area every year. Do you have a lease? Is it private property that the family has owned? And how much are you sitting on?
So it is family farm that we've had since the age of Methuselah. It's older than dirt, and it's 300 acres is what we have now. 60 of it is bean field. A lot of it is cattle farm, and the back half where I'm at is half woods, half field. But actually, the part that I hunt on it most is only 5 acres.
Wow!
It's just a 5-acre patch in the back of it, and we just. Finally, throughout the years, it was always just a hay field. We done a lot of it, put it in the CREP program, and that's helped out a lot, is getting CREP program in there.
Yeah.
And then I was finally able to go in and put all my food plots and everything else that I wanted in there.
That's awesome.
What made you finally decide to do a food plot? I'm surprised y'all left it as a hay field for.
I finally got permission to.
Are you guys surrounded like that? The 300 acres y'all have, are y'all surrounded by other hunting clubs? Is it residential in those areas? What's around you?
I am surrounded 360 degrees. It is kind of suburban. A lot of it is cattle farms. Now, around the other back half of the farm is actually the main town itself. And then I actually have a set of guys that hunt in the center of my farm. There's a road that cuts through as an easement, and they hunt right smack dab in the center of it. I didn't realize, I knew there was people that hunted around me, because I got neighbors that call me and stuff, and you see stuff on Facebook and this and that, and you're like, man, I kind of got a lot of competition. But over the years, you start getting a little bit more neighbors, and neighbors start talking. And I literally, every square inch around my farm, there's people surrounded me, 360 degrees, and they all hunt.
Oh, gosh, that's stressful.
That's pressure on the deer. It makes it harder on you, makes the deer nocturnal. That's hard, man. What's
the mentality like? Down here in the South, a lot of the mentality is if it's brown, it's down. And regulations support that. Unfortunately for us, is what I would say. What about there in Kentucky? Are people more of worried about, or at least the people around you, would you say they're focused on shooting a mature deer and managing their herd effectively, or are they just filling the freezer around you?
It's kind of 50-50, to be honest. A lot of the population around me is, I don't know if y'all have much Amish.
We don't. No.
We don't.
Mm-mm.
Not at all down here in the South. I mean, in northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, yeah.
A little bit.
They're prominent.
A little bit, yeah.
The county that I'm in is mainly an Amish community, and they're kind of 50-50. You got a lot of them that if it's brown, it's down, they shoot it. They're just trying to get meat because, I mean, you got 7 kids.
Right.
Grocery bills start getting high.
Especially with
yeah.
inflation right now.
Hey,
My
I
gosh.
can imagine that would be. And I mean, again, that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother talk. I mean, discussing whether or not you can't eat the horns and you can't, why do you do it? I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, we can get
bringing
into
that
all
up.
kinds of weeds of that. And I mean, obviously the horns are great. I mean, that's what we're hunting for. But
What about you,
Yeah.
Brett? Are you more of you'd rather shoot a mature older deer with a nice rack than you would a little spike coming out in front of you when you got a trigger finger?
I'm a bow hunter first and a trophy hunter second, but my farm, I will try to shoot at least in my area 4-year-old deers mature.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, if a 150-inch 3-year-old walks out in front of me or a 120-inch 3-year-old walks out in front of me, trigger finger gets a little itchy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm into that.
And what I always say is, if it makes you happy, then all for it.
That's right.
And that's where I've always been. My stance. If you're happy with a 4-point, shoot a 4-point. Now, if you're just doing it, for the wrong reasons, again, that's a whole other topic. I'm gonna get off. But again, if you're happy and you're content with that deer, that's all that matters, man. You put the time, work, money. There's a lot of effort that goes in it. And I mean, you know as well as I do. But again, I don't even know if we ever even specified where he's from. Kentucky.
He said middle of
Did he?
nowhere.
Okay.
I didn't know
Middle of
if
nowhere,
you were
Kentucky.
trying to conceal that as
Yeah.
best you could.
Yeah, we won't go into latitude, longitude. Of that, but he's in Kentucky. But again, break us down into the kind of the hunt, into the tactics of this hunt, and then kind of just roll on into the hunt if you don't mind.
Y'all got popcorn?
Yeah.
I wish I had
need
popcorn and water because I could talk
Drink.
about this all day.
Yeah.
So once when I said I had permission, it actually took my grandmother. They own the farm and everything else, and they let us, the grandkids, hunt it. And she finally, after hounding her so much, she said, "You know what? You can do what you want. I trust you. You just get that backfield. You can do whatever you want to it." So what I ended up doing is the year before, I punched out a cedar patch and I put a clover and chicory plot in there, and that helped out a lot. I also had a lot of deer, and they were grazing it down, so I wanted to change it. And after everything that happened last year, the 10-pointer that ran with splits. He was 156-inch 10-pointer, and a neighbor shot him. I had three deer on the farm last year that was 100 mid 150s, and all my neighbors killed them.
Wow. Did they have food sources out that were pulling them off of you, or what? What do you think the reason was behind that?
My farm absolutely is crap in later season. So if I don't kill a deer in September, I'm done. I mean, that's it. And most of go ahead.
I was going to say, it's so crazy. We have that too down here, and we see it so often. It's just, some places just breed just bucks in general, bachelor groups, and then during the winter they'll venture off and breed does. But so your property's more along those lines of
early season or
bust. You're done. Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to hunt.
I know. I'm trying to change that. And most of the guys around me, they're putting all they're doing. It's legal to bait in Kentucky. So they're just putting out corn piles and stuff like that. A few have food plots here and there, but most is corn piles. But if they get on a hot doe in November, it ain't gonna matter how much corn you got.
Yeah, You're right, 100%.
And but I just decided, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna do it. So I was fortunate enough to have the equipment and the ability to do it, but I went in there and I tore out. Now, I got the day job that I do, so I had to do this when I got off and on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of 14-hour days going in there. I took a bunch of trees out, and then I dug a pond, and then I planted apple trees and pear trees, and then I planted clover around that pond, And then I went in. I even bought a tractor. I didn't have a tractor, so I bought an old clapped out Ford 9N.
Split
And
is
I
an expensive deer, man.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have put all that into a high fence and if you'd have said, no, but that's what makes it rewarding. And I mean, this is the stuff that we need to know, because I mean,
Holy cow, that's a lot of work,
into
dude.
this.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought that tractor and I had to put everything back on it, but I went through and I planted. One thing that I didn't have was bedding. Like all my deer were leaving, they were traveling from a far distance, and so I put in at least an acre or 2 acres of bedding in it. I tried to give them as much there that they didn't have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I put in beans and I put in a bunch of other plots, 4 galore, cowpeas, stuff like that. What I didn't plan for is my deer grazing pressure, and I didn't fence my beans off, and they ate my beans as soon as they come up.
Oh, man, as soon as that was just a big
What a waste
salad
of money,
bar for
man.
'em.
They were like, thanks, Termite. That was enjoyable.
So I guess your tactic, though, of establishing this, like creating this, is hopefully in hopes you're hoping that you're going to be able to
This is home. This is home for them.
Contain those deer in those later months, correct? I mean,
Yeah.
you're establishing a water, you got food source, you got bedding, you're making it home, exactly. And so, I mean, and this is your first year.
Get
really,
up out of bed.
Yeah.
Go eat a little over here. Go hang out in the pond and go back to bed. I'm picturing it all.
But this is your first year just really doing all of that work, correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So you really won't know the fruit of your labor until after this year. You might end up seeing some more bucks staying
Later.
in the area. So that's cool. Okay, I'll be quiet. Roll
Crossing my
on.
fingers.
Oh, you're fine. But at this point, I didn't even know if Splits was alive or not. Like I said, he was after October hit, he was gone, MIA, vanished.
Man.
And I had no idea he was alive. And you keep hearing all these stories of like the neighbor saying, "Oh yeah, well I shot this deer and my neighbor shot this deer over here and he scored 150 and stuff." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh no, well congratulations, but crap."
Yeah.
So finally, once I got a camera out and started seeing pictures come through, the first set of photos that I had of him, he didn't have anything, it was June. So he was just starting to come to life and stuff. And then when I really realized what he was probably July or August is when he made the jump. And I was like, oh my God, this is the biggest deer I've ever hunted in my life. And everything just kind of went from there. And I kept getting pictures of him, and he was like clockwork, 6:45, 6:45, 6:45 every evening. Well, I had another buck on the farm that was about 7.5 years old. That was a bully buck, and he run him off. So he come in, and then he run him off for a little bit, and then when he would leave, he'd come back. And they started getting along together because I got pictures of them together. And my buddy said, "What are you going to do if both of them come out?" I said, "Shoot the first one that turns broadside."
Heck yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. I would.
But whenever I hung the stand up, I have no trees. I had hardly any trees around me to hang a stand. We had a really bad tornado come through and just destroyed every bit of the farm in a lot of Kentucky. Probably 3 tornadoes that destroyed it. And I had nowhere to hang a stand, but I had one poplar tree. And I went and I set it 20 foot up. So once we got everything, cleared all my shooting lanes, cleared everything out, I had a good wind, a northeast wind, northwest wind, blow right in my face. We were money. I put cedar trees up along the side in front of my stand, and I gave the deer one entrance and one exit. They couldn't go around me. They could come in front of me or down up the ridge and to the side. But any way they passed me, they were in range. And when I got that stand set up, it was all actually crap. I was 20 feet up, and the pond and everything was up here, and my stand was at a lower elevation. I was eye level with them.
That's hard.
No.
I was eye level with them the whole time. So I sit there and I was like, well, it'll be all right and stuff. And time kept going on. And it's kind of like that one mechanic that left a nut loose when you're laying in bed and you open your eyes. You're like, you know what? I forgot that. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't want to mess with anything. I don't want to bump him. I want to play it smart. I went in there and I did my entrance and my exit to where I could put the old Mohican sneaking on him, getting into the stand.
Yeah.
So once I got to sitting I climbed up in the stand one time. I don't know why I did it. I got anxious and I was like, I just have to sit in there and just stare at everything. So I climbed up in there and looked. I was like, man, this sucks. And I was like, I can't hunt this stand. So luckily I had a saddle. So I went and there was a cedar tree that was 10 yards back from that poplar tree. And it was kind of tucked in. And I climbed up, set a set of sticks, took my sticks down, took the stand down, took everything down out of it. And I was like, I'm going to get in that cedar tree. So once I got everything up in there, I cleared out even more branches. And I was don't do this, kids, but I didn't want to climb up and down the tree. So I started jumping from tree to tree.
Oh. We got to edit that out.
Yeah, we need to take that on.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's hilarious.
But once I cleared out all the shooting lanes and everything out, I actually left a branch there because I knew whenever he come from right to left, whenever he come in the opening, I could see him. Whenever he got to the branch, I could draw on him. Whenever he come up, I could shoot him.
Yeah, we'll totally show a
Yeah,
little
that's
clip
awesome.
for viewers to see. I know exactly what you're talking about because I creeped on you and
Yeah,
saw
man.
it. But I think you called it a bridge or something
Yeah,
like
a
that. That
bridge.
was in
Yeah.
front of
That
you.
is
Yeah,
awesome.
smart.
That's cool.
Very smart.
But but once finally, like season got there, and I had him to a T. And to be honest, I got really cocky.
Oh,
But a big deer has a real good way of humbling you quick.
yeah.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
But I had him to a T. I mean, 645, 645. I said, I'm going to climb up in the saddle. And I said, he's going to come out. I'm going to shoot him at this time. I just got to watch for this deer.
Mhm.
And it was like 95 degrees that day.
Mhm.
And I said, he'll come to the pond. He'll go to drink. So I got up into the saddle that afternoon. And I'm sitting there and everything's kind of slow. Got a couple turkeys and stuff coming out there and everything. And I knew there was a 4-pointer that he was coming out there with. I knew that one small buck he sent out there first. And it was getting close to that 6:45 time and I ain't seeing anything. And you sit there and you go, oh, well, maybe it's not going to happen today.
Yeah.
Start going through photos and all of a sudden that 4-pointer come out and everything happened so fast. I mean, it was like deer I had 5 bucks in that one spot, just one right after another. And then when he come out, I just seen just Velvet just sitting there just rocking like this. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening.
Oh,
And
man.
I got my bow and everything ready and I'm sitting there and he gets in and he turns his body towards me and he gets right in line with that branch.
Mhm.
And I'm just sitting there watching him. And I'm like, please, please, for the love of God, move. Please, Lord, let that deer just take one step. And it got from my heart pumping to me getting aggravated. And I'm sitting there in the stand going, stupid deer, just move one side. Just move one side. That's all I need you to do. Just do it.
One step.
Yeah, that's all I needed you to do. And then he left. He only stayed there for about 10 minutes. And then he decided that he was going to leave and go feed on the sorghum. Well, I had a little gap. He was at 50 yards and he was walking out to 60. And I just prayed that he would stop. But as soon as I drew back on him and he come out to the side, I just had to let down. He wasn't stopping. He come in there like he owned the field and he didn't care what happened. And at that point in time, what I didn't realize is that deer watched me hang the stand and he was living in a 600-yard radius.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. It's so crazy. I hear stories, they hear the chains on the gate when you open the gate, and they know when you're in there. They don't get big for no reason. I mean,
They're smart.
They're smart.
That's when I realized once he come out through that branch and walked out, that's when I really realized what he was when he was walking out. And I was sitting there and I was like, I texted a buddy of mine and I said, we had a general number on him, what he would be. And then I texted him and I said, Bub, I think that deer's a lot bigger than what we thought he was. And if you can imagine that little dog on Instagram on side the bucket when his knees are sitting there shaking, that's what it was like. Yeah, that's what it was like. And at that moment, that's when I realized he come up and he fed on the sorghum a little bit. And then I could watch him go over and I could see his reflection in the pond, and I can hear him slurping up water in the pond.
Oh,
And all this is
gosh.
going on, and I can't even do anything. And I'm just sitting. I take my hat off, and I'm just sitting there with my head on the tree, going, "Why? Why?" I was like, maybe he'll come back. Maybe you try to talk yourself up the whole time. It's okay. He'll do exactly what you want him to do. It's fine. No, he didn't do that at all. He J-hooked into that fortress, and he went and he slept in it. Well, the next morning, I got a picture of him. And he come out of the fortress, and he went right back there to fed, went to the pond and cut down the ridge. And he was looking at the stand when he was feeding. Where I put the tree saddle, that's where he was looking at. And I was like, he's watching every single daggum move I make. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, we'll try her again. We'll give him a little bit of time. We got good wind all week. I said, we'll be all right. So I went in there again, and I think this is the third time that I hunted him. Second time that I hunted him at this point. And the wind just started swirling in there, and I was like, maybe I should get down. I was like, I don't know. And then it hit me in the face, and I was like, okay, we're good. It's going to cut back. We're all right. And about around the 6:45 mark, here come that 4-pointer, and I cut the branch off this time. I went back that morning after he left, and I cut the branch off. I was like, all right, I'm going to fix it now.
Dadgum thing.
I'm going to cut that branch off. And I cut that off, and that 4-pointer come out there, and he looked, and he seen that branch was gone, and he looked. And people don't think that deer don't know that you've done something. That's like us in our living room. They know exactly what you did.
Dang right.
There and looked at that branch, and he just bobbed his head, and I was like, don't you do it. I kept looking at the edge to see if splits would come out, and that 4-pointer didn't like it, and he went back in. I was like, God, the wind hit the back of my neck and hit him. I said, I know splits was with him. I got down out of the stand at about 8 o'clock. At 8:31, Splits was out there looking at the stand with the daggum 4-pointer. I was like, I knew it. So I didn't hunt him anymore after that. I was like, I got a crappy wind now. I'm not going to do it. So I went hunting with my brother, try to get him on a deer and hunt with him, and just waited for a good wind. And then the whole time I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm like, I need to switch up on him. If he's looking at that saddle, I need to do something different to try to get on him. So I got my stand that I originally hung, and I got my 20-foot sticks, and I had another set of muddy sticks. So I had 20-foot climbing sticks, and then I got another section of climbing sticks, connected it to that. And then I went to TSC, Ace Hardware, Royal King, everywhere to find more climbing sticks. And I finally found some at a gun shop, and I bought a 4-pack of Connect sticks, mobile sticks, and I put 3 of them on top of that. So I was probably 32 foot up, 35 foot up at this point.
Man.
Splits in my head, I'm just racking up this bill that you've acquired to get Splits.
A couple grand in
between building him a whole new house and now having to do this to get basically 40 foot up a tree, which I would never want to do. Holy freaking cow.
Yeah, I'm still trying to recover from that.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Smart.
But,
Smart.
After I got in there, I got to looking at it, and I was like, I said, I'll kill him here. I was like, I got a feeling, I don't want to say it. I said, but I'll kill him here. And I got to looking at, of course, I did have a corn pile out there too. It's legal to bait. I'm going to do anything in the world that gives me
glowing in a couple of your shots on YouTube.
If it's legal, then man,
who cares?
For it. I mean, that's a tool you got to use. I mean,
if you don't, the neighbor is, and they're going to theirs. I can tell you that.
See, here's the bad thing is I had more of an opportunity to shoot him when he was eating the sorghum than I did on the feed. It was just, he stopped there for a split second, and he went and he got in that fortress, and he was eating inside of it too.
Yeah,
I didn't have a daggum tree to hunt him out of on that side. And so I sat there and I looked at it and I arranged it, and I was like, it's a little farther than I thought it was. And I clicked it, and I was like 40, 38, 39, whatever. I was like, all right, we're good. I was like, we'll be all right. So I went in and my brother looked at me. I waited a couple days before I hunted him after that. I gave him time, everything to calm down. He was showing up at night at this point, and if he even showed up at all, he shed one side of his velvet off. And I was sitting there just looking. I was like, he's got my number. I was like, he got me. He watched me hang that stand again. He's got my number. And I had another buck in there that I was going to hunt. And I looked at my brother and I said, I need you to get the side by side. I said, because I drive the side by side back there on our farm and I park it about a mile back, half a mile back. And I walk in there. I said, he's listening to me. Come in on that side by side. And he knows when I stop it. I said, I need you to drive me back there, and I want you to drive me further to the stand. I don't want to stop at the barn. I want you to drive me on down. And I want you to drive me back. I want you to drive back and leave me there. And when we walked out, he looked at me and he said, I know I've said this before, but I got a feeling. And when he said that before, I didn't have a feeling, and I didn't think I'd kill him. And then when he said that, I just told him, I said, I don't want to jinx nothing. But I had a feeling too. I just didn't want to, I'm superstitious and I didn't want to jinx nothing. And we got into the stand. I got into the stand and I had a lineman's harness around my waist. And what the camera angle didn't show is my stand is facing directly at the feet. I couldn't turn left. I couldn't turn right. I usually like to get, shoot off to the side. I had a tree right behind me. So I grabbed my safety harness on and I wrapped a line around a branch to where I could hang off of it and lean forward. So when I had to shoot him, the only thing that braced me was a lineman's harness rope tied to this tree, and I was leaning forward shooting him like that.
Again, kids, do not try this at home. Yeah. What the heck? Yeah. No way. No way, yeah. Jose.
I was still tied to the tree. Everything was safe. I was still tied to the tree. If something would have happened, I wasn't going anywhere. And my sticks were right there. I could have got down.
40 foot high, pretty much. I couldn't even make my body do that, knowing I was tied to the tree. Yeah, that's so crazy because, like I said, we watched the YouTube video, and paid attention to every little bit because it was enjoyable. But I wouldn't didn't even notice you come off of a platform like that and do that.
Yeah, and when I sat in there, I didn't see much that evening. Now it started dropping in temps a little bit, so we went from the 90s to about 80 degrees at this point, mid-September, September the 10th. I sat in there and I seen a little fawn that always come up behind me. My little buddy come out there and was feeding and stuff. I had a couple turkeys, and around about, I want to say 6 o'clock. I seen 2 bucks come out, and one was a spike, and the other one was an 8-pointer that I knew very well. He was about 120 inch. He was in full velvet. He wasn't shedding at any time whatsoever. He was about 19 inches wide, and I just sat there looking at him. And I just had the little devil and the angel on each side, and I was like, well, you want to wait for him or you want to shoot a deer in velvet. You ain't never shot a velvet deer in your life before, and you'd really like a velvet deer. And I drew back on that deer 5 times. 5 times. And it didn't matter what happened. Every time I drew back, he would turn left, turn right. He would do anything. And my selective arthritis was kicking in, and I couldn't get my release to go off. And I'm just sitting there like, just do it. And then something just told me, no, don't do it. And I just let down. That deer busted me, and he has I don't know if he got hit by a car. He's got a busted back hip, and he just he didn't blow nothing. He just kind of walked his way off, and then a doe blew 150 yards to my left, and I was like, I can't catch a daggum break. I was like, God, of course does blow at everything, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. So I just kind of took my hat off, going through trail camera photos, and as I'm going through photos, trying to see what he's going to do next, if I can get a bead on him, we all send up a selfish prayer every now and again. And I said, Lord, it's me again. I hate to do this. I said, but I'm not asking you to drop anything in my lap. I said, but if you blow a little bit of wind on the sails, I'll carry the ship the rest of the way.
That's awesome.
And then I looked up for some reason, and all I seen was a gray head, just a big gray head in the trees. And I was like, I thought it was the other buck that I was coming in there. I was like, oh my God, it's the wide 9-pointer. I was like, he's come out. Like, he's never done this. And then I look once he clears, and I was like, it split. And that's when it was just hard thumping. And he just come up like he owned the field again, just like he owned it. And he come up there and he stopped, and he was kind of hewed his body towards me, and he was looking where I hung that saddle. And now I'm 10 yards to the other side of where he was looking. And I got everything on him, and I got my bow ready, and I said, son, I said, if you've ever done anything in your life and held your composure, do it now.
This is it.
And I drew back on him, and the only thing that I could do was just stare at his shoulder. And I was like, you're going to have to rotate this release faster than crap. And I sat there and rotated, and it come off. And when it smacked him and I seen it hit the center of his lungs, he barreled out of there. And I watched him run through the fortress, and he made it into the woods line. And it just was a god-awful. It sounded like a Mack truck crashed. And then I went ballistic.
Lost it.
I lost it. I absolutely went ballistic.
Rightfully so.
And after I shot him, I go to get my phone out, like calling everybody, hey, I killed him, so I got one call out. And then my phone died on me.
Oh, no.
And then I realized, I was like, oh, crap. I don't have any way to get back.
Yeah.
So I just grabbed my pack, left my bow, left everything in the tree. I crawled out of there as quiet as I could until I got about halfway out into the other side of the field, and I just took off running for everything that I had in me. And I had to run 1.5 miles back. And I made it, and I was like, oh, I got my tractor. I was like, my tractor's in the shed.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to get on my tractor and drive back.
Look at it coming in handy again. Money didn't go to waste.
I got on my tractor, and my tractor's out of fuel.
No way.
Just kidding. Scratch that.
I was like, oh, no. So I go on my power jog looking like Mamaw Maxine power walking, and I'm just throwing stuff off of me, pack, everything, all down the road, throwing it off of me. And I get back, and I seen the first sign of life that was human, and it was my grandmother. And I threw my hands up looking like Rocky Balboa, and I was like, I killed him! I just killed him! And finally, we get the phone charged, and I'm able to call everybody to come get him.
Aww.
That is so awesome.
Who went with you to go get him?
I got a bunch of buddies. My taxidermist is my friend. My brother come with me. Once he finally knew what happened, he said, I'm coming. Oh, boy.
Which one in the YouTube video, which again, I encourage anyone listening to this to go watch this whole video, other than just the clips that we get to throw in here. But one of the guys that's with you is like, I've been looking at him the whole time, and I was just waiting for you to see him.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, that would be me to you, Cody. That would be what I'm saying.
Anymore.
Who was that? Was that your brother, the taxidermist?
That was my taxidermist, Nathan.
That was funny. That was cute.
There was four others other than me. And it was kind of funny because I showed them, like, I made sure to bring my camera back and show them the footage of shooting him and stuff. And I sent them the shot. And they were like, oh, no, you shot him in the liver. Oh, no, you shot him in the spine. That's exactly where I shot my deer at. We're going to give him time. And I was like, Nathan, I love you, but it sounds like I shot him with an Uzi. I was like, well, we were sitting there talking and stuff, and we were waiting. We gave him 2 hours, and we were waiting for everybody to get there. And I'm just standing there, and he's just looking at me, and he said, you're a lot more calm on this deer than I would be. I said, I know he's dead. I said, I heard him crash. I said, I know he's dead. On the inside, I was panicking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gotta keep it cool.
Yeah.
But we went back there, and he didn't make it 40 yards. And I still didn't realize what I'd done, and it took time. But when we got up there, in the path that he opened up to the fortress in the woods, Nathan was standing in front of me. And I'm shorter than him, so I'm sitting there, all I got's light in his shoulder. So I'm sitting there looking in his shoulder and stuff, and then he sits there and he shines his light, and he goes back. Shines his light again. He goes, I don't know where he went from here. And then I finally get out from underneath the shoulder and I go, there he is. And then he was like, I've been staring at him for 10 minutes. And I was like, I can't see over you.
Yeah, that's so cute. I noticed that in the video.
Awesome,
Loved
man.
that.
I love
That's
it.
the coolest part, though, about hunting. I think having people to share it with is so exciting. And don't get me wrong, I bet if you went out there and found the deer yourself, you'd still be just as, or be tickled.
Yeah.
But it's more special when you're surrounded by people like that.
Close friends and family. That's what it's
awesome.
about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, they were on the ride for all of it. I mean, I've had multiple phone calls with them and my buddies. I mean, we just with deer and everything else. I mean, I'm as excited for them if they shoot a doe as if they 180-inch deer. So I wanted everybody, and especially my brother and everybody, just to be there along for the ride. And anytime anybody shoots a deer, that's what we do. We're there. We're all there for along for the ride.
Is your brother a bow hunter too?
He is. He hunts with a gun more than I do. He actually hasn't killed a buck with his bow yet.
Okay.
And when I went hunting with him, there was 2 bucks that come out. One was about a 110-inch 10-pointer that come out, and the other one was a cool 7-pointer that come out. And I was in the saddle behind him filming him, and they just sat there forever. And I looked at him, and he wasn't moving. So I actually, while the deer were there, I cinched down my saddle, and I tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, hey. He goes, what? I said, you gonna shoot one? He said, nah, I'm gonna let him walk. And I was like, okay, well, you do whatever you want. And I was like, you just ain't killed a deer yet, and you ain't killed one in velvet. So I was like, all right, whatever. Kind of proud of you a little bit, but if you want to shoot, go ahead. And then I climb back up.
Funny. That's so neat.
Maybe we can get him one. So I guess a question that we haven't really had answered yet in this entire podcast, but what did he score?
Oh yeah.
He went. We green scored him at 165.
We got to get a BTR score out there to you, though.
We're definitely getting a score to you.
Splits deserves a certificate that says this is what this dude
he needs to be in the books for sure. He's definitely a BTR buck and definitely worthy of the books. So.
And he's your biggest, right? Like you knew it looking at him, and he actually is.
He's the biggest deer I ever killed in my life. The deer before that, my biggest deer to date before him was 133.
Big jump.
Yeah, that was my first. I mean, he's my first ever real big deer. I mean, he had everything that I ever wanted.
Yeah,
he was exactly everything I wanted.
And it's crazy. I mean, like we had discussed too prior. I mean, 160 for down here in South Alabama is a giant. For around those parts, that's a giant. And you get in different areas that a 180, 190 is
spoiled. You getting spoiled areas.
That's the big one. But but down here, it's the same way. If you're killing a 140, you're doing something, and it takes a lot of work for that. But that says a lot, man. That says a lot, heck of a lot. That's a heck of.
You have any others on your radar for this year, or are you just tickled and helping your brother from here on out?
I'm helping him here from then on out. I'm taking my daughter, taking her hunting, and then I got a few other states that I plan on hitting.
Oh, where are you jumping to?
I'm going to Missouri, and then I'm going to Ohio.
Oh, Ohio. You're going to a spoiled state. Here we go. Oh, man. I'm excited to see what you get in Ohio.
That'd be cool.
Has your daughter ever killed one?
Nope, this is the first time.
Oh, my gosh.
And see, Kentucky, he was explaining to me, you only get one deer a year, correct? 1 buck a year?
Yeah. You get 1 buck a year now in different zones. So like me, I believe I'm in zone 4. I get unlimited does. Now you can shoot 2 does. After you shoot your 2 does, you got to keep buying a $15 per tag and continue to shoot those. But we're all allowed only 1 buck.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean that helps to an extent, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Makes people be a little more selective.
Yeah, very selective.
Another podcast
for
another day.
The bad thing about that is now we had a really bad drought and blue tongue hit us.
Oh my god.
Oh man. So y'all have got the blue tongue up there. That's the problem down here. We're starting to get around here too, but yeah, those up Midwest and then Kentucky, they're prominent in those areas. I know. I hate that, man.
not to give away anything you have going on in Ohio, but are you going like public land up there? Do you have a buddy? Okay.
I've been looking at the Land Trust app a lot
Oh,
and trying to find something up there. But if I don't find nothing that interests me, then I'm going on public. And then Missouri, I'm definitely going on public. I've been e-scouting a bunch on there. So, and I wanted to hunt public because I want to challenge myself as a hunter. And if I can learn something and better myself, even if I don't kill a deer, it's worth the trip.
Yeah.
God, kudos to you. That's awesome. So awesome. I'll be stalking you,
Yeah.
watching
You've
for
gotta
some
keep
more
us updated.
more
But
stuff to drop out.
we for sure are going to get a BTR score to you for
Whenever
sure.
you're home
Yeah.
and
you get that deer, hopefully just probably because you're going to do a shoulder mount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got him in the freeze dryer right now.
Freeze dryer, so cool. Because that half side's still velvet. That's pretty dang sweet. That's going to be a
That's
bad
sick.
mount.
That's sick.
I'm gonna try and put the blood back in. I'm gonna try and put the
Man.
blood in his rack where he
Oh.
was.
You want a shoulder pedestal mount, like just a shoulder on the wall? Like what are you going with?
I originally thought I was gonna do a half body mount on him, laying down, but I'm gonna do a shoulder pedestal, and then I'm gonna get a whiskey barrel with a bunch of different habitat. Put in a whiskey
Yeah.
barrel mount.
Cody's
That'd be
dream.
awesome.
Cody's
Yeah.
dream. I
That'd
won't
be
let him
cool.
have it in our tiny house, but Cody's dream.
That's sweet.
Live vicariously through
Well,
him.
man, we are pumped. That's so cool, and thank you so much for sharing the story. I mean, that's a heck of a story, and we hope you have very many more. That's just so
Seriously.
cool.
You got me pumped. We have our opener is this weekend. We start later than literally every other state. Feels like we're the
Really?
only ones left with no velvet season at all. All of our neighbors have that luxury and we do not. So you've got me like literally at times, especially when you're talking about your heart
Salivating.
pumping.
You're
I'm
just
like,
ah.
oh, I can't wait to go get in the stand. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So pumped for you and can't thank you enough for reliving it with us. That was awesome.
And we're
Well,
gonna put his handles in the description and all of his links and stuff.
Go
on YouTube so you
watch
can
the
it.
video.
Definitely
Seriously.
watch it. It was pretty cool. It was pretty sweet. You did a really good job with that. But
Appreciate
and
it.
any questions, comments, concerns, anything you got about these things that we could do different, y'all put in the comments too, so we can know. But again,
Or any
Termite-
questions we didn't
yeah,
ask.
Yeah, questions we didn't ask. That's another.
We'll
good,
shoot them to him.
uh,
Have him answer
Yeah,
it.
he can answer it for us, hopefully. But Termite, I appreciate it, buddy. If I could shake your hand, I would through the phone. Through the computer,
Appreciate
but,
y'all.
Man, happy hunting, buddy, and keep at it and let us know. Let us know how it goes. But we greatly appreciate it. And this concludes this podcast for today. But
Episode 1, and it's probably one of the best one we'll
yeah,
have.
I'd say this is
So
good.
much fun.
If we can get some of our technical difficulties worked out, I think we're really going to be knocking on this. So excited. But again, thank you. Tune in to the next episode. But we appreciate it.
All right.